What up, YouTube Live? How's it going, everybody? This is yours truly, Rama Screen, covering movies, TV, and entertainment. And I'm back doing another live stream. um, and today's Sunday night, June 30th, 2019. Holy crap, June is already over. We're entering July tomorrow. Damn, time flies. Um, and so this evening is the new episode of Big Little Lies. Big Little Lies season 2, episode 4 to be exact. And the title is She Knows. That cracks me up because I'm a huge fan of Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks. And she always does this thing where she's like, oh, she knows. Oh, she knows. Of course, it usually has a context, before she says that. She's talking about or referring to women who actually know more than what they let people on or reveal. So, but that's another, that's neither here nor there. Um, I love this episode. This is fantastic. So I got a few thoughts about it. First of all, damn, you got to start with Nicole Kidman, Celeste. She slaps Meryl Streep in the face. Meryl Streep plays Mary Louise, the father of I'm sorry, the mother, the father, the mother of Alexander Skarsgård's character Perry, and so Mary Louise is Celeste's mother-in-law. And in this episode, Mary Louise, she expressed to Celeste of how she 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 did not fully believe, or she's suspicious of Jane Chapman's entire story of Perry raping her. She's like, oh, I'm not quite sure that's the whole story. Like previous episodes, she's like, oh, you keep leaving things out, that part out. And so it's like, why was Perry with her? And, it's like, was Perry tempted by her? Was he with other women that also took advantage of him too? Stuff like that was so. So Celeste took that as offense, and bam, she snapped and boop, slapped Meryl Streep in the face. Okay, as a big fan of Meryl Streep, I was like, my reaction to that, I was like, whoa, you did not just slap Meryl Streep across the face like that. You did not just. What did you just do? Kind of like when do you remember that classic movie In the Heat of the Night, starring the great Sidney Poitier, and that scene where that one white dude kind of like slaps him like this, and then he's like, immediately he slaps the white guy back, and I was like, whoa. Yeah, you deserve that slap, white boy. Because nobody hits Sidney Poitier and gets away with it. Okay, that's Sidney Poitier right there. He's the man. um, so I was like really, really shocked when Meryl. But man, kudos to Meryl Streep for taking it like a champ. Yeah. So I wanted to start with that. That because that caught me a little off guard. I was like, wow. Uh, does Mary Louise deserve that slap though? Yeah, somewhat. She kind of pushed, keep pushing somebody like that to the edge. Um, I mean, it's still wrong for Celeste to lay her hand on Mary Louise like that. You don't. Come on, guys. We can have arguments, verbal, raising voices or whatnot, but when you start like physically touching somebody, or assaulting somebody or slapping somebody, that's a big no-no. All right. You can file charges for that. Well, we'll talk about that further. What happens in this episode? Mary Louise did not end up filing charges against Celeste, but she ended up filing petition to have custody of the boys. Celeste's sons. So yeah, Mary Louise was wrong to have pushed Celeste's buttons like that, but Celeste was also wrong to um, to have snapped like that. But and that slap that gave Mary Louise an extra reason, for her petition. You know what I'm saying? By that point, she already had this. I guess you could say was building up a case against Celeste, or a case uh, to have a reason to have custody of the kids. But that slap kind of sealed it. Like, oh, now she's even violent towards me. And you know what shocks even more is that Mary Louise was, because I told you guys the way I describe Mary Louise's character is spicy. Like, man, it's like sharp tongue. You know what I'm saying? Like the comments, the stuff that comes out of her mouth. Like right after Celeste slaps her, you know what Celeste says immediately after? And she says, like, "Oh, was that the foreplay?" Ouch, ouch. Somewhat kind of like pouring salt on, because Celeste told Mary Louise of her relationship with Perry. Her violent sexual. They hit each other. Perry would beat her up, and then right after that, or soon after that, they have sex, and that's so. It's like a burn. Like, oh, was that foreplay? uh, that's how you do it with Perry, or used to do it. Man, whoo, that's some, yeah. Uh, if you have a mother-in-law like Mary Louise, bless you, my friend. You must have the longest patience on earth. I don't know if I would survive. All right, so next thing on my note here, the party, the 70s birthday party for Renata's daughter Emma Bell. Is it me, like, or is it that Emma Bell is the only one that gets lavish birthday parties? She was the one that also received birthday party last year, right? In season one. I was like, man, must be good to be her. Even when, her parents are facing bankruptcy. But Renata, when she puts on a party for her daughter, she goes all out. And the 70s theme, um, she even invited the Tramps, I believe. I think that's the disco group, right? The Tramps, Burn Baby Burn. So, I mean, I'm sure the kids would not know who they are, but the parents certainly would. Um, and everybody's cosplaying, just like in season one. I think in the season one finale, the cosplay party was Elvis Presley and Aubrey Hepburn. Well, in the tonight's episode is the 70s, right? So so Ed has a fro on, and Ziggy shows up as Stardust, like David Bowie. Um, what else? What else? Uh, yeah, just Bonnie looks sort of like the 70s slash 60s. She kind of has a bit of Woodstock thing going on with her outlook as well. I mean, outfit. Um, so it might be sort of like a mashup between the two eras. It's quite a party. It's quite a party. And at one point, Ed almost had a fight with what's the name of Bonnie's husband? I can't seem to remember his name, but he's a dick. I don't like that guy. That guy also, speaking of pressing buttons, that guy always is he's always in Ed's face. So I don't blame Ed for like losing his shit in tonight's episode, because that guy, Bonnie's husband, man, uh, he's got problems, dude. He's got he's got issues. Let's see here. What is his name? All right, it'll come to me. So it's a hell of a party. Of course, it ends with, if you've seen the episode, Bonnie's mom uh, fell down, had a stroke, had to be brought to the hospital. Um, but here's my note about that whole scene. Oh, also, I forgot to mention there are two legal stuff going on here. One of which involved Renata and her husband um, with the bankruptcy hearing, and the other one involved Mary Louise and her lawyer in trying to draft this petition to have Mary Louise get custody of Celeste's sons. And my reaction to that is like, wow, I never liked being, in a room with lawyers. I never had to deal with lawyers. And I hope I never will have to deal with lawyers. So I've never been in that kind of situation in any attorney client stuff going on. Um, it just it just seems uncomfortable and inconvenient. And like the bankruptcy hearing, it's like Renata is like losing shit, man. Like not losing shit, like losing emotion and snap, but she's losing her stuff, literally. Like at one point, she even has to give up her wedding ring. I was like, wow. I don't know. I'm just saying that in a situation like that, more than often, you're the loser, and that sucks. I would never want to be in that, in such a. The last time I was ever in a courtroom was for traffic reasons. I think it was a couple of tickets that I've never or forgot to or never got around to paying. And now after that, I was already scared. I was inside the courtroom. I was like, "Whoa, shit! Yes, I'll pay. I'll pay, Your Honor. I'll pay it." It was a lot too. So, but I vowed to never ever return to inside a courtroom. The only courtroom I want to watch is the one on the TV screen with courtroom dramas. So, um, but back to my point. I have this episode. This episode makes me empathize with the husbands and the wives, the the female lead stars of female lead characters in this. And let me explain to you. All right. Um, for example, Ed, as you know, is long suffering. Ed is a long suffering husband, but the same can be said about Renata's husband. I know. You probably argue like Renata's husband. Why would you empathize with him? The guy sucks, man. And the guy, you know, it's his fault that that they're gonna go into the poorhouse. Um, but at the same time, why I empathize with him is you gotta admit that Renata kind of owns some of that blame. Um, and it's not all Renata's fault, but she's not clean of it. Like I think in a way, and it's not like Renata and her husband have gone to therapy yet, but I'm just speculating here, assuming that, or theorizing, if you will, that because Renata often emasculates her husband, belittles her husband. We've seen that in season one, throughout season one, and obviously she's like the breadwinner. She's the person who brings the dough, the bacon home, obviously, and that could be emasculating. And for a spouse, for his case, wants to prove himself. Of course, he blunders at it, and it costs them their fortune. But one could imagine, like, what could wonder, like, maybe if Renata had treated him differently, maybe he would not have been compelled to make some of the decisions that he did. I know. I'm just trying to find sort of like the humanity in him. Like not he's not like Renata's not all bad and Renata's not all good, and the same can be said about her husband. You know what I'm saying? And so of course you have Ed, who is long suffering. Maddie cheated on him, but at the same time, at the end of this episode, by the end of it, Maddie tries a tactic to get physical affection from her husband, but he coiled away, which I don't blame Ed for doing that, for coiling away, because freaking like she cheated on him. Like, why would you give her sex? So it's understandable, but you can tell from the glimpses, there's flashes of her remembering her affair with that one guy in season one. In a way, she kind of like misses that in a moment. I mean, like, you know, so my point is that it's not always that simple. It's not always like Ed is all good. Maybe if Ed also had paid more attention to his wife in that department, who knows? I'm just throwing it out there. It still doesn't justify uh, Maddie's affair or Maddie cheating on him. But again, it goes back to just like Renata and her husband. It's never simple. It's never black and white. And um, more than often, you can find enough blame to go around for both sides. So I empathize with the husbands in this one, except for Bonnie's husband. I never liked that guy. Another long suffering dude is Douglas Smith. Douglas Smith's character. I'm sorry. Douglas Smith is the name of the actor. Corey, who's who obviously is attracted to Jane, but Jane still is still traumatized by Perry raping her. So but God bless freaking Corey, man. Corey is very, very patient, and in this episode, Jane finally revealed to Corey, hey, I was raped. That's why I still have this anxious feeling when somebody tries to touch me or be affectionate with me or tries to kiss me. That trauma keeps kicking in from time to time. And Corey, you know, is he seems like a very understanding dude to me, and that's a good sign. Um, that kind of guy is rare in this day and age. So yeah, that long suffering, just like Ed. But I think Corey is in a is in a much better place, relationship wise, compared to Ed. Obviously, um, the women. Uh, I mentioned in previous episodes how Renata is the one that cracks me up the most out of the five, no, the Monterey five, the five female leads. Especially when she said to her husband in the previous episodes, "I will not be rich." To her, being rich is everything. It's everything. But in this episode, I empathize with her too. When at her daughter's party, um, her husband comes up, stands by her side, and Renata tells her husband, like, ever since I was a kid, I've dreamed about having my own children, my own child. Having I dreamed about having married life, having a house, building a family. I've dreamed about that when I was 12 or whatever age I was, like, and now because of you, all of that has gone to shit. So, I know that I've made fun of Renata before in the past, and many of those moments were warranted. Um, but in this case, my heart kind of bleeds for her because, yeah, I'm not generalizing here, but that's partly true. All right, I have two little sisters, and it's true that, um, when it comes to girls or women, they've they've thought about, or they fantasized about, or they dreamed about their weddings, or having a family. They've already had that in their heads back when they were kids, like in their teenage years, or maybe even younger than that. Whereas us boys, we more than often just take things one day at a time, and of course, we don't think that far ahead, or we only think about making money, or we only think about sex, or you know whereas women or girls, they already had that in their heads when they were young. so that's why my heart bleeds for her, because yeah, when you have a dream that big and you've worked so hard to achieve it over the years, and obviously she has, judging from her wealth and the lavish party that she put on in this episode, to have that be tarnished or destroyed, with a single blow or with a single act, it is devastating. And so when you see, or when you come at it from that perspective, from that angle, where you understand where she's coming from, therefore you empathize with her. And so yeah. um the other one, of course, I already mentioned, about Maddie. um there's this line when Maddie says, nearing the end of the episode, she says to Ed, "Why don't you just leave already? If you want to leave, just leave. Stop torturing me, with this act of, like, silent treatment, or being mean to me, or ignoring me. Like, just leave already." Um, and yeah, when she says that, I'm like, yeah, why doesn't he just leave? Like, if he does feel hurt, and justifiably so, about the affair, why stick around? I mean, is he really that vindictive that he just wants to stick around to, I don't know, keep being dismissive of her every single moment? What does he gain from that? So how is it beneficial for him to just still be around? um again, it's back to what I said earlier. There's enough blame to go around. But I want to conclude with, um Celeste versus Mary Louise. I mentioned to you in the previous episode that I have some reservation about considering Mary Louise as this season's villain. People say, "Oh, like in last season, Perry was the villain, right? Was the unifying villain that all the Monterey Five kind of hate on." It's like, oh, this season's like, some people say, "Oh, Meryl Streep is gonna be the villain." Maybe the villain to the Monterey Five, but, um, again, when I watched the episode tonight, I you know I was like, whoa! So she wants to have custody of Celeste's sons. She wants to take Celeste's sons away from Celeste. That's not cool. Celeste is not a terrible mom. Um, but at the same time, um, with the whole thing with the ambient problems, when she kind of blacks out from time to time, she loses track of time and she doesn't even realize that she had sex with the bartender. That does give ground for concern that even folks like me who are not parents, I'm not a parent, I'm not a grandparent, even folks like me will be like, oh, yeah, that might not be the most or the healthiest environment for her sons, especially, her sons, as you know, may inherit um, their father's tendency for abuse. so so if they were to grow up in an environment where the mom is not 100% present because of, I don't know, ambient problem, or like she loses track of time, that's not good. You want an environment that can nurture those two sons to be better than their dad, so they don't end up, beating on women like their dad did. um so what I'm trying to say is, yeah, it's kind of fucked up that Mary Louise is trying to take her grandchildren away from their mother, but can you blame her? I don't know. So it's like in that way, she's not really a villain, right? It's more complicated than just to just call her, oh, she's the villain of season two. Again, she may be the villain to Celeste and the Monterey Five, um, because she's on to them. But when you see it from the perspective of the audience, and when you take everything into consideration, you're like, wow, yeah, I don't know if I would blame the grandma for that. But back, you know, as the lawyer of Mary Louise said in this episode, um, this whole custody battle will not also, it may not win over her grandchildren's her grandchildren's hearts as well. Um, the boys might not like that they don't come home to their mother. So this is gonna be a pretty nasty fight ahead of us. So yeah. Oh, one last note before I conclude. When it comes to Jane Chapman and the trauma from the rape, it really makes me sad and heartbroken for her, because if I'm not mistaken, right? Perry was the only guy she ever had intimacy with. And that's not even intimacy. That was rape. And that's the only sex that she's ever had. She mentioned that before. That she Perry was the only man I've ever been with. So it's totally understandable that it's gonna be hard for her to fully surrender to this new guy, Corey. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna take a long time, because the only sex that she's ever known is that violent sex that one evening that she had with Perry. Um, so I can only hope that Corey is that good a guy who thinks like, you know what, um, Jane is worth it. So I'm gonna wait till whenever she's ready. If I have to wait 100 years, I will. And if he's that kind of guy, and if Jane sees him for that kind of guy, and I think those two are gonna be those two are gonna end up just fine, relationship wise. So I know that sounds romantic. I have my moments sometimes. So thank you so much for tuning in on this live review of Big Little Lies season 2, episode 4. I love this show. This show is so awesome. I had my doubts. Of course, I mentioned to you, it's like, why do we need season 2? Season 1 should have been just a limited series, standalone, and that's it. It should have just ended there, and with season 1. There's no need for a follow up or continuation. But I think the writers have found a good way to pull the rug out from underneath the feet of the Monterey Five: Bonnie, Renata, Jane, Celeste, and Madeline. Bonnie, in particular, deals with her mom, who is sort of like a psychic or a juju thing, and that's kind of weird too. And watching Big Little Lies also makes me realize that no families are perfect, and all families are fucked up one way or another. It's all about trying to find balance, man. Um, Trying to make sure that that the presence of your mother-in-law or your siblings or your spouse or your friends and peers, you know trying to make sure that they don't go from cool to overbearing. And because sometimes when you have so much of their presence, it can get a little too much. It doesn't matter if you're culturally used to or supposed to be culturally used to having family members come into you through your door all the time, like Everybody Loves Raymond. So it's all about trying to find that balance, trying to find that boundaries, man. It's a tricky stuff. Family, can't live with them, can't live without them. Thank you so much for tuning in. And right now, I'm going to check out the latest episode of Euphoria. Oh my God. I have to brace myself for that one. Euphoria. And I'll be back with the live stream review of that one as well. If you have seen tonight's Big Little Lies season 2, episode 4, do you agree or disagree with my assessment? What do you think of tonight's episode? Let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. And as always, subscribe to my channel, press that like button, ring that bell, and if you can help support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/ramascreen. That's patreon.com/ramascreen. Let's rock this.